Chapter 4575. Seeing the change in Lin Yunqing's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that Lin Yunqing had misunderstood. "Madam, I'm actually Beichen's friend." Hearing the words Beichen, Lin Yunqing's gaze froze. "You're Beichen's friend?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, a sweet smile on her lips. "Madam, I've known Beichen for many years. I know that you're so weak now because you're worried about Beichen. If Beichen knew about this, he wouldn't be willing either. If you're willing to know about Beichen, I'll slowly tell you after I've treated him, all right?" Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was unusually gentle. Looking at Lin Yunqing, she felt as if she was looking at her own mother. Mu Lingbing had been extremely worried about her in the past. Although Lin Yunqing and Mu Lingbing weren't the same person, their feelings were the same. "You know about Beichen?" Lin Yunqing's dim eyes immediately lit up. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a burning gaze, her eyes full of surprise. "I know a lot about him. Let me take your pulse first, then I'll slowly tell you, all right?" Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was faint, and her voice was gentle, giving off the feeling of a spring breeze. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her, Lin Yunqing felt an inexplicable sense of comfort. The corners of her lips curled into a gentle and affectionate smile. "All right." After getting Lin Yunqing's consent, Bailey Hongzhuang took Lin Yunqing's thin hand and began to take her pulse. She was so thin that it made one's heart ache. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were very gentle, as if she was afraid that she would hurt her if she used too much strength. Lin Yunqing seemed to have noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts, and her gaze became even gentler. After taking her pulse, Bailey Hongzhuang had a better understanding of Lin Yunqing's condition. Sure enough, Dr. Wu's judgment was not wrong. Lin Yunqing's physical condition was really bad. Under such circumstances, even the slightest provocation would be unbearable. This was the first time she had encountered such a mental illness. It was also because this mental illness had existed for far too many years. "Is my situation very bad?" Lin Yin said with a faint smile when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang frown. "Don't worry about it. I know my body's condition very well. Tell me about Beichen. As his mother, I haven't been able to stay by his side for so many years. I only know a little about him. I'm very happy to be able to see you at a time like this. Hearing more about him is the greatest consolation." Lin Yunqing's expression was calm while her eyes were clear and flawless. She seemed to have seen through everything since long ago. "Madam, you'll be fine." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a resolute light. Although Lin Yunqing's condition was very serious, she would definitely nurse her back to health. "You don't have to comfort me." Lin Yunqing waved her hand. "Miss, I don't know why but I like you very much at first sight." Speaking of this, Lin Yunqing's smile became even more brilliant. She had really liked Bailey Hongzhuang from the first time she had laid eyes on her. This was the first time someone among the younger generation had made her feel this way. "Tell me about Beichen." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "All right, but before that, you must take this pill." Hearing this, Lin Yunqing was stunned for a moment before she smiled and agreed. "All right, I'll do as you say." Chapter 4576. When Dr. Wu saw that Madame and Bailey Hongzhuang actually got along so well, his heart was filled with astonishment. He had been in charge of Madame's illness for quite some time. Although Madame had a gentle temperament and was easy to get along with, this was the first time such a situation had happened. Originally, he was still thinking about how to introduce Bailey Hongzhuang. He did not expect that before he even said anything, everything had already been resolved. Moreover, from the current situation, the two of them seemed to be chatting happily. He did not need to worry at all. Not only that, Madame's current state was much better than usual. For a moment, Dr. Wu only felt that this might really be fate. After Lin Yunqing took the pill, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly relieved. This pill was refined by her previously. After knowing that Lin Yunqing's condition was not very good, she began to refine a few pills in case of an emergency. Now, it just so happened that she needed to use it. The most important thing for her now was to stabilize Lin Yunqing's condition. Later, she would go back and concoct some medicine. Although she did not have many medicinal herbs on her, she believed that with the D family's foundation, they should have all these medicinal herbs. However, this heart disease had existed for too long. If she wanted to cure it, It would also be a gradual process. Following that, Bailey Hongzhuang began to talk about Di Beichen's past. Lin Yunqing listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's narration. Her expression was gentle and faintly revealed a bit of joy. So he has always been so outstanding. After knowing that Beichen had always been an outstanding existence in the lower realm, Lin Yunqing's eyes reddened. However, her heart was even more gratified. However, as she spoke, the corners of Lin Yunqing's eyes became wet. Sometimes I regret it. If we had known that he was living well in the lower realm, should we not have looked for him? If he had not come to the upper realm, then at least he could still live well. But now, it's all because of us. Madam, don't think like that. He is your son. Moreover, all of this was not within your expectations. Think about it from Beichen's perspective. If he knew that his family had always been so concerned about him, he would definitely be very happy. Of course, he hopes that you can live on. Lin Yunqing shook her head slightly. Her eyes were wet with tears, and her voice was choked with sobs. My son is very lonely underground. I want to accompany him. All these years as his mother, I didn't take good care of him. It's just that. I'm most worried that he won't be able to recognize me once I'm underground. As she spoke, Lin Yunqing couldn't help but cry. She already knew Beichen's appearance from the portrait, but Beichen had never seen her all these years, so how could he recognize her? Hearing Lin Yunqing's words, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but tear up. A mother's love was so great. At this moment, this was what Lin Yunqing was most worried about. Madam, actually Beichen might not be dead. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered and said. She had to give Lin Yunqing a glimmer of hope, and let her have the desire to live. Otherwise, if he continued to maintain this attitude, even if she tried her best to treat him, she would not be able to achieve good results. Lin Yunqing was slightly stunned. What do you mean? Up until now, no one has found Beichen's body. Since they haven't found him, he might not be dead. How can you determine the result just by listening to one person's words? Chapter 4577. Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black phoenix eyes flickered with a bright light, and her pretty face was surrounded by a convincing luster. Lin Yunqing was also shocked, and for a moment, she did not know what to say. Indeed, she did not see Beichen's corpse. She had only heard Di Kaiyuan's words, and had already determined the result. In fact, how could anyone not believe what Di Kaiyuan said before he died? Didn't everyone think that Beichen had already fallen? But he was still alive and well. Maybe it's the same now. There will be miracles in this world. Maybe Di Kaiyuan himself has not figured out the situation. If you give up now, what if Beichen comes back? How regretful would that be? Bailey Hongzhuang held Lin Yunqing's hand. So, you must persevere. You must nurse your body back to health, and look forward to that day. Lin Yunqing stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. She had already given up all hope. But after hearing all this, she suddenly had a trace of hope. Maybe a miracle would really happen. You are very tired now. Why don't you rest first? I will tell you about Beichen in detail later, okay? Lin Yunqing nodded slightly. In fact, she also felt very tired. She just wanted to hear more about Beichen, so she had been holding on. After coaxing Lin Yunqing to sleep, Bailey Hongzhuang retreated. She took out a pen and paper, and wrote down the medicinal herbs she needed, and handed them to Dr. Wu. Dr. Wu, you should be able to find these medicinal herbs, right? Dr. Wu took a look. Although these medicinal herbs were expensive, there was no problem with the Di family. Don't worry, I will find them soon, but can they cure madam? Dr. Wu could see that these medicinal herbs were all beneficial to the body, but he had used many of them before, but they had no effect. It will be cured. Bailey Hongzhuang said with certainty. Okay, I will go prepare now. After the great elder informed Di Yujue of Lin Yunqing's situation, he rushed over as soon as possible. Is Yunqing's current situation very bad? Di Yujue's face was filled with anxiety. Recently, he also knew that Yunqing's situation was very bad. So other than dealing with the family matters, he spent all his time with her. However, seeing her condition getting worse and worse every day, his heart ached, but he could do nothing about it. Second young madam is back. Perhaps things will take a turn for the better, First elder said uncertainly. He did not know much about the second madam's medical skills, but according to the eldest young master, the second madam was a miracle doctor. Perhaps things would turn for the better. Second madam? Diyujua couldn't help but frown when he heard this. What second madam? Patriarch, second young master and second young madam have returned. First elder hurriedly explained. We were preoccupied with madam's condition and forgot to inform you. Second young master? Diyujua was stunned, and then a look of disbelief appeared on his face. You're saying that Bewitching is back? Yes, second young master is still alive. First elder nodded. It turns out that eldest young master and second young master have become friends before, but they didn't know each other's identity at that time. This time, eldest young master went to Rongan City and just happened to meet each other. It turns out that the miracle doctor that eldest young master mentioned before is second madam. What a coincidence. I think it's fate. Chapter 4578. Even though the great elder had spoken on his own, Diyujua only heard one sentence in his mind. Bewitching was still alive. This news was like a bolt of lightning, causing him to freeze on the spot. His hands trembled slightly, and his handsome and dignified face was filled with unconcealable joy and excitement. He's still alive. He's really still alive. Diyujua mumbled to himself as an indescribable joy blossomed in his heart. At that moment, he felt as if the sky was exceptionally clear today, and he felt as if he was stepping on clouds. That's right, the second young master is still alive. I told you that the second young master would be blessed by the heavens. The great elder's face was full of smiles as well. After worrying and searching for so many years, the second young master has finally returned. Their hearts, which had been hanging in suspense, could finally be put down. Even though someone had been trying to obstruct them from behind the scenes, it was a good thing that the other party's plot had not succeeded. Where is Bewitching now? Diyujua no longer cared about anything else. He only wanted to see Bewitching standing in front of him, safe and sound. The second young master is now in the madam's courtyard. The great elder understood Diyujua's anxious feelings, and immediately replied. The eldest young master and the second young master had planned to meet with the master first. However, they happened to run into Dr. Wu on the way, and found out that the madam's condition was not very good, so they went to the madam's residence first. I've come to inform you. Diyujua nodded gently. His feelings were very complicated. Initially, he was very happy to know that Bewitching had returned safely. However, when he thought of Lin Yunqing's current condition, he could not help but worry. Let's go to the madam's courtyard and have a look. In the next moment, Diyujua's figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. Diyujua only slowed down when they were outside Lin Yunqing's courtyard. As he stared at the courtyard not too far away, he suddenly felt uneasy. There was a kind of feeling called homesickness. Although his current situation did not fit this description, there was a similar feeling. All along, he had been hoping to see Bewitching. However, now that Bewitching was not too far away, he did not dare to go over. If others knew about this, they would definitely find it unbelievable that he, the master of the D family, would have such feelings. However, it was all true. In fact, he was the one who felt the deepest guilt towards Bewitching. If he had not fallen into the trap back then, of course, Bewitching would not have been stranded in the outside world all these years. Although he knew that Situ Yen had never mistreated Bewitching, it was still different for him to not grow up in the family. Moreover, he had learned from Situ Yen that Bewitching had always been concerned about his background. He did not know how to face Bewitching at this moment. Similarly, he did not know if Bewitching would forgive him. Now he missed the time when he was on Penglai Island. He and Bewitching had a pleasant conversation, and the two of them felt like old friends at first sight. From then on, he knew that Bewitching was a calm and magnanimous person. However, now that his identity had changed, everything was different. When the great elder saw Diyujua standing outside, and suddenly stopped, he was confused for a short moment before he understood. Just like how the old master went into seclusion after knowing that everything was related to him. Thinking about it, the person they could not forgive the most was him. Master, second young master is very reasonable. He will understand. The great elder's voice was low as he spoke slowly. Chapter 4579. He had already thought it through. No matter if Beichen blamed him, resented him, or hated him, he would accept it. Because it was his fault all these years. To him, as long as Beichen was still alive, that was already his greatest comfort. As for anything else, he wouldn't ask for anything else. The first elder looked at the silent Diyujue and didn't say anything else. He understood that this kind of thing wasn't something that could be comforted by others. He only hoped that the second young master could understand the patriarch. In fact, the patriarch had punished him enough over the years. Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng stood outside the courtyard. Both of them were silent and kept looking inside, hoping to know the result as soon as possible. Just as Di Beichen was waiting, Di Xiaofeng suddenly turned around and said to the figure outside the courtyard, "Father." Seeing Di Yujue's arrival, a happy smile appeared on Di Xiaofeng's face. "I've brought Beichen back." As soon as he stepped into the courtyard, Di Yujue's gaze was fixed on Di Beichen. His son was even more handsome than in the portrait. He stood out from the crowd, and he was elegant and charming. At the same time, Di Beichen also looked at Di Yujue. Although he had already seen him before, seeing him now was a completely different feeling. His father. For so many years, he would sometimes think about what his father would look like. Now his father was standing in front of him. Di Yujue and Di Beichen stood there, looking at each other with complicated and deep gazes. Di Yujue's hands behind his back trembled slightly. His lips opened and closed, and his eyes flickered. He seemed to be hesitating, but also seemed to be thinking about how to phrase his words. After a while, he called out, "Beichen." He had never felt that speaking was such a difficult thing, and his heart was even more uneasy. Looking at the handsome man who was like the sun, his heart was boiling, and his palms were sweating. Di Beichen also stared at Di Yujue. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. "Father." After calling him father, Di Beichen felt his whole body relax. In the past, he had been resentful towards his family for abandoning him, but now that he understood everything, his resentment had long disappeared. When Di Yujue heard Di Beichen call him father, he was completely stunned. His deep and spirited eyes suddenly widened, revealing disbelief and uncontrollable ecstasy. That kind of surprise simply could not be expressed with words. He had thought of many scenarios where Beichen would not forgive him, but he had never thought that Beichen would directly call him father. The word father had reached the bottom of his heart. His heart felt as if it had been ruthlessly smashed by someone. A feeling of warm tears spread in his heart, and the corners of his eyes could not help but moisten. However, all the previous nervousness and apprehension turned into joy in an instant. A joyful smile from the bottom of his heart bloomed on Di Yujue's lips. You called me father?" Di Beichen smiled. "You are my father." Hearing this, Di Yujue hurriedly took a few steps forward. His chest kept rising and falling, as if he did not know how to suppress his excitement and ecstasy. "Thank you for coming back. And thank you for being willing to acknowledge me as your father." Di Yujue's voice was low, suppressing some kind of enthusiasm, but everyone present understood that he was excited and complicated. Chapter 4580. In the next moment, Di Yujue suddenly opened his arms. Di Beichen stepped forward with a smile, and the father and son hugged each other. The golden sunlight shone on the father and son hugging each other. It was bright and gorgeous, revealing a kind of warmth that penetrated one's heart. Di Yujue patted Di Beichen's back and said in a calm and powerful voice, "Good son." "My good son." Di Beichen just slowly said, "Father, I'm back." His expression was very calm, and from his trembling voice, everyone knew that he was also controlling his emotions. Di Xiaofeng and the others on the side watched the scene of the father and son reuniting, and the corners of their eyes became slightly moist. Although men weren't good at expressing their feelings, they all understood. After Di Yujue let go of Di Beichen, the smile on his face became extremely bright. He quickly said to the head elder, "Head elder, go and inform the old man and old madam that Beichen is back." The head elder quickly nodded. "I'll go now." After the head elder left, Di Yujue's mood also calmed down. When he looked at Lin Yunqing's room, There was a trace of worry between his brows. Xiaofeng, how is your mother now? Xiaofeng's brows were tightly knit as worry appeared on his face. Dr. Wu said that mother's situation is very bad. Sister-in-law has already gone in to see her, but she hasn't come out yet. We don't know the situation yet. Hearing this, Yujue couldn't help but worry. He looked at Bewitching and said, if your mother knows that you're back, she will definitely be very happy. He knew too well how much Lin Yunqing missed her son all these years. If she knew, how happy would she be? Hong Zhuang's medical skills are very outstanding. She will definitely cure mother. Bewitching's voice was firm and firm. He believed in Hong Zhuang's ability, and at the same time, he fervently hoped that his mother would be fine. Yujue nodded. He also believed in this, because just from the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang cured Bewitching's cursed body, one could see how outstanding her medical skills were. One had to know that if it wasn't for the D family's previous method of curing the cursed body, other doctors wouldn't be able to solve this problem at all. Bailey Hongzhuang came from the lower realm, but was able to understand this. This in itself was very shocking. Just as they were discussing, Dr. Wu came out of the room. Almost immediately, Di and hurriedly went up to greet him. Dr. Wu, how is the situation? Madams, she seemed to likes. She liked madam at first sight. As he spoke, Dr. Wu handed a piece of paper in his hand to Yujue. These are the medicinal herbs that the second madam had asked me to retrieve. Just now, the second madam had fed madam a pill and madam is now resting. However, the second madam is using silver needles to treat madam. According to the second madam, she will be able to cure madam. However, madam has been too weak these past few years, and will need some time to recover. She said that it can't be rushed. Yujue glanced at the medicinal herbs on the piece of paper, and waved his hand to summon a servant. Go to the medicinal herb storehouse and retrieve these medicinal herbs. Yes. Hearing this news, Xiao Wanrong was also somewhat puzzled. Could it be that something happened in the family? Go and invite the great elder here. Soon, Xiao Wanrong saw the great elder walking over with a joyful expression. Xiao Wanrong originally had a worried look on her face. When she saw the great elder's joyful look, she couldn't help but feel even more puzzled. Great elder, did something good happen? Why are you so happy? Old madam, let me tell you a piece of good news. Second young master has returned. Chapter 4582. First elder nodded repeatedly. He was already used to everyone's expressions. At this moment, when he saw old madam's expression, it was as if he had seen himself in the past. Everyone was pleasantly surprised that second young master could return. Yes, second young master has just returned. Patriarch asked me to inform you and old master. Is what you said true? Xiao Wanrong stepped forward and stared at first elder with a burning gaze. You can't lie about this kind of thing. Old madam, even if I ate a bear's heart and leopard's gall, I wouldn't dare to lie to you. First elder hurriedly said. A few days ago, first young master and I went to Rongan City to find a miracle doctor to treat madam. We didn't expect this miracle doctor to be second young madam. When we returned, second young master revealed his identity. All of this is fate. Seeing first elder's solemn vow, Xiao Wanrong understood that all of this was true. She was ecstatic. This surprise came too suddenly, so much so that she couldn't believe it. That's great. Xiao Wanrong clapped her hands excitedly, and couldn't help but pace back and forth. Her face was full of excitement and agitation. I knew it. Our Bachin is blessed and will be fine. I have to quickly inform the old man to go see our precious grandson together. Xiao Wanrong clapped her hands repeatedly, so that the old man won't be competing with himself. Where is Bachin now? Second young master is now in madam's courtyard. I got it. I'll go right away. Without waiting for first elder to finish speaking, Xiao Wanrong's figure had already disappeared from sight. Seeing this, first elder sighed and shook his head. He didn't expect old madam to be so agile. However, the smile on his face couldn't help but widen. Such great news. I have to inform the other elders too. Haha. Thinking of this, first elder's figure also quickly disappeared. Di Linxian had been in seclusion in the secret chamber. When he suddenly saw the door of the secret chamber open, he couldn't help but frown. Seeing that familiar figure, Di Linxian opened his mouth without thinking. Old madam, you don't have to say anything. I won't go out. He couldn't face all of this and couldn't forgive himself. When he thought of his poor grandson, he really wished he could go to hell to accompany him. Normally, Xiao Wanrong would feel very uncomfortable when she heard Di Linxuan's words. But now, the smile on her face was still as bright as ever. In fact, ever since she found out that her precious grandson was not dead, and had even returned, she could not control the smile on her face. She wanted to control it, but she couldn't. This was the best day he had ever been in over 20 years. Hee old man, are you really not going out today? Looking at Xiao Wanrong's smiling face, Di Linxuan's brows furrowed even tighter. Old woman, what's wrong with you today? You're laughing like you're having a seizure. The moment these words came out, Xiao Wanrong's expression instantly changed and she glared. You're the one who's laughing like you're having a stroke. Whether you smile or not, you look like you're having a stroke. However, after saying this, Xiao Wanrong's smile appeared again. The corners of her mouth were raised so high that they almost reached the back of her ears. Di Linxian couldn't be bothered to bicker with him. What did you come here to say? If there's nothing else, then go out. I'm going into seclusion. Chapter 4583. However, Di Linxian waved his hand. Unless Beichen isn't dead, I won't forgive myself. That's right, Beichen isn't dead. Xiao Wanrong nodded. It's useless no matter what you say. Di Linxian sighed. In the next second, he suddenly went into shock and stared at Xiao Wanrong in astonishment. What did you just say? I said that Beichen isn't dead. Xiao Wanrong repeated herself. Di Linxian quickly walked in front of Xiao Wanrong and stared blankly at her. You, say that again. Beichen isn't dead. Xiao Wanrong raised her voice. Not only is he not dead, he's even back. Are you going out today or not? If you're not going out, then stay here. I'm rushing to see my precious grandson. Xiao Wanrong glanced at Di Linxian and pretended to walk out. Seeing this, Di Linxian quickly chased after her. Is what you said true? Our precious grandson is really back? How did he come back? When did he come back? Where is he now? Di Linxian had a stomach full of questions. His originally listless face was now brimming with energy, and he looked as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He was so excited that he could not control himself. Xiao Wanrong was speechless when she heard Di Linxian's question after question. I came to tell you as soon as I heard the news. If an old man like you hadn't insisted on going into closed-door cultivation here, I would have seen my precious grandson by now. Xiao Wanrong scoffed coldly in dissatisfaction. However, it was useless to pretend at this moment, because the smile on her lips could not be suppressed at all. Even though Di Linxian had not seen Di Beichen with his own eyes, he knew that everything was true. The smile on his face was not the same as Xiao Wanrong's smile. On the contrary, it was even more exaggerated and his eyes had narrowed into slits. Then where are they now? In Yinqing's courtyard. Hearing this, Di Linxian immediately ran forward. His speed did not seem like that of an old man. Old man, wait for me. Seeing that Di Linxian was about to run away, Xiao Wanrong was anxious and accidentally fell. Di Linxian finally stopped when he heard Xiao Wanrong's voice. Looking at Xiao Wanrong's appearance, Di Linxian ran back helplessly. Old woman, you're already so old. Why don't you take it easy on the road? After Di Linxian helped her up, Xiao Wanrong blushed a little. That's because I was in a hurry to see my grandson. We haven't seen each other for so many years. How can we not be anxious? It's good that you're in such a hurry. You're already so old, yet you're still so impatient. If this gets out, you'll become a laughingstock. Di Linxian turned around and left as he spoke. Boom! A muffled sound was heard. Di Linxian accidentally bumped into the door. Seeing this, Xiao Wanrong could not help but chuckle. You only know how to talk about me. Look at yourself, you're still the same. Di Linxian was at a loss for words. I'm just anxious to see my grandson. If I didn't come back to help you, would I have hit the door? Don't be stubborn and deny it. Do you think I don't know your character? Xiao Wanrong looked as if she had seen through him. Di Linxian was also embarrassed. It's enough that we know about this. Don't tell anyone about it later, Di Linxian said domineeringly. However, there was a hint of guilt in his voice. I know. Xiao Wanrong waved her hand. You want to keep up appearances to avoid suffering. Chapter 4584. After seeing Di Beichen and his father reunite, Di Xiaofeng's smile became even brighter. Now he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, his younger brother was reasonable and did not have any dissatisfaction after knowing the whole process. Otherwise, the situation would be a little complicated. After Di Yujue knew that there was a way to treat Lin Yunqing's illness, he only felt that the stone in his heart was completely put down. His whole person seemed to be a lot more relaxed. All the things that he was worried about were solved today, leaving only a pleasant surprise. Beichen, I can guarantee that grandfather and grandmother will rush over soon. A playful smile appeared on Di Xiaofeng's face. He raised his eyebrows and grinned, revealing his white and neat teeth. He knew his grandparents too well. Just by thinking about how they scolded his father every day, he knew how much they were looking forward to Beichen's return. They must have rushed over as soon as they heard the news of Beichen's return. Although there was some distance from here, it should only take a moment. Hearing Di Xiaofeng's words, Di Yujue shook his head helplessly, but there was still a smile in his eyes. Not long after he said this, two figures appeared outside the courtyard. They did not see the person, but they heard the voice first. Where is my precious grandson? Xiao Wanrong and Di Linxian hurried to the courtyard and saw Di Beichen standing next to Di Yujue at a glance. Suddenly their eyes lit up. Although this was the first time they had seen Di Beichen, they had looked at the portrait left and right. They didn't know how many times they had seen it. Now that they saw the real person, they were very excited. "Ayo, my good grandson." Xiao Wanrong stepped forward and held Di Beichen's hand. Her kind and gentle face was filled with a kind and amiable smile. "You're finally back. Let grandmother take a look." It was Di Beichen's first time seeing such a kind and amiable old lady. He passively turned around on the spot and let Xiao Wanrong carefully look at him. Only then did Xiao Wanrong reveal a comfortable smile. "Good, very good." Di Linxian looked at Xiao Wanrong's anxious appearance and couldn't help but frown. "Don't scare my precious grandson." As he spoke, Di Linxian looked at Di Beichen and smiled warmly. "My good grandson, don't be scared by your grandmother. She's always been impatient." Di Beichen had a sunny smile on his face. Even if it was the first time he saw the two elders, he liked them from the bottom of his heart. He could see the fondness the two elders had for him in their eyes. That fondness was so dense that it could not be dissolved. It emanated from their bones, making it irresistible. "Grandfather, grandmother." Di Beichen greeted them with a smile. "Zai." Di Linxian and Xiao Wanrong answered happily. Their loud voices were filled with joy. It was as if they couldn't wait for the whole world to know that their precious grandson had returned. The two elders, who were usually strict and serious, were as happy as children at this moment, completely disregarding their previous image. "My precious grandson is so handsome." Xiao Wanrong stroked Di Beichen's arm happily. Her eyes were curved into crescents because of her smile. "You're even more handsome than your father. How many young girls have been charmed by you?" Chapter 4585. "You old man, do you still have any shame?" Xiao Wanrong's face was full of disdain. "Look at your appearance, then look at my precious grandson. He's so much more handsome than you." Hearing this, Di Linxian's face was full of dissatisfaction. "I was also famous for being a handsome man when I was young. If not, would you have bowed down to my green robes? Look, Yujue, Xiaofeng and Beichen, didn't they all inherit my excellent genes? That's enough. Only you have the nerve to say that." Xiao Wanrong rolled her eyes, and then looked at Beichen with a gentle smile. "My precious grandson, who do you think is more outstanding between your grandfather and me?" As soon as she said that, Di Linxian also said, "My precious grandson, You don't have to worry about feelings. Just say it directly. Bewitching looked at the two happy elders in front of him, and the smile in his eyes gradually deepened. He couldn't resist these two elders at all, and wanted to get close to them from the bottom of his heart. It turned out that his grandfather and grandmother were so interesting. Thinking about it, if he could grow up under their love, he would really be doted on. Although this is my first time meeting grandfather and grandmother, I can see that both of you were rare handsome men and beautiful women when you were young, Bewitching said with a smile. Following Bewitching's words, Lin Xian and Xiao Wanrong's faces bloomed like flowers. My precious grandson has good taste, haha. As she said that, Xiao Wanrong's eyes couldn't help but look around. After not finding the person she was looking for, she couldn't help but frown. Where's my precious granddaughter-in-law? Why don't I see her? Grandmother, sister-in-law is treating mother. She's in the room now, Di Xiaofeng replied. I see. Xiao Wanrong suddenly understood. Yunqing's condition is indeed not good recently. How is she now? Hong Zhuang said that she can be cured, but she needs some time to recuperate. Bewitching said in a low voice. Even with Hong Zhuang's medical skills, she still needed time to recuperate. It could be seen that her condition was really serious. Lin Xuan's eyes lit up. My granddaughter-in-law's medical skills are really outstanding. I heard from Dr. Wu that this condition is very difficult to treat. I didn't expect my granddaughter-in-law to have a way. This is really great. Previously, when they learned of this situation, they were very worried and immediately invited all the doctors that could be invited. However, the results still made them feel despair. They didn't expect their granddaughter-in-law to have a solution. It was really a surprise. I only knew that Hong Zhuang was a miracle doctor, but I didn't know that she was my sister-in-law. Even now Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but sigh. This was a fated reunion. Just as they were talking, a graceful white figure walked out of the house. Bailey Hongzhuang performed acupuncture on Lin Yunqing after she fell asleep. However, as she said, Lin Yunqing needed some time to recuperate, and it would take a while for her to recover. Fortunately, the situation didn't worsen. This was already very good news. However, Bailey Hongzhuang just walked out of the house and found many people standing in the courtyard. She saw Di Yujue at first glance. Among these people, she only knew Di Yujue. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come out, Bewitching quickly walked up to her. Wife. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Bewitching, you're here too. Chapter 4586. The moment they saw Bailey Hongzhuang appear, the eyes of Xiao Wanrong and the others all lit up. With their experience, they had seen countless beautiful women, but this young lady in front of them gave them an indescribable feeling of amazement. She was devastatingly beautiful, a national beauty. The simple white dress was simple and elegant, but when she wore it, she gave off an otherworldly aura. She had a beautiful figure, graceful and charming, and her exquisite facial features were impeccable. This was a lady that would make people remember her at a glance. Xiao Wanrong and Di Linxian couldn't help but look at each other after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang. They had heard that their granddaughter-in-law was a rare beauty, but now that they saw her, she was even more outstanding than they had imagined. Not only them, Di Yujue also had a trace of astonishment in his eyes when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, but it quickly turned into deep joy. When he first saw Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing, he had already guessed that Bailey Hongzhuang was a beauty. When they were on Penglai Island, Bailey Hongzhuang had disguised herself in a more ordinary way, so he didn't expect her to be such a beautiful lady. Xiao Wanrong immediately went up to her, her kind and amiable face filled with a cordial smile. She reached out and grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand. This is my precious granddaughter-in-law, right? Xiao Wanrong smiled brightly, revealing her white teeth. She's really beautiful. My precious grandson is really blessed to marry such a beautiful granddaughter-in-law. Io, look at her small hand. Her small face is so fresh. One look and I like her. Xiao Wanrong looked up and down at Bailey Hongzhuang, her bright eyes revealing two words, satisfaction. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little startled when her hand was suddenly grabbed, but when she guessed that this lovely old lady was Bewitching's grandmother, she relaxed. Although it was only their first meeting, she could feel that this old man truly liked her. Hong Zhuang, this is my grandmother. Di Beichen introduced her with a smile. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and greeted, "Grandmother." "Zai." Xia Wanrong replied happily. "I really didn't expect that my precious grandson has already married such a beautiful granddaughter-in-law. I'm so happy today. Granddaughter-in-law, welcome back to the Di family. From now on, this will be your home. If you need anything, just tell me. Don't stand on ceremony." "Thank you, grandmother." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled brightly. She had thought that the people from the aristocratic families were more serious. She did not expect that the grandmother in front of her was more amiable than ordinary elders. She could not help but want to get close to her. "What are you thanking me for? This is what a grandmother should do." Xia Wanrong smiled happily. She was really too happy. Her grandchildren and daughters-in-law were all back, and she liked them very much. Di Linxian also walked over. He was naturally not as close as Xia Wanrong, but the smile on his face was similarly amiable. "Granddaughter-in-law, welcome back." "Grandfather." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and greeted. Hearing this, Di Linxian also grinned. "Zai. By the way, granddaughter-in-law, how is your mother now?" Xia Wanrong could not help but ask. "Mother has fallen ill from accumulated depression over the years. It will take some time for her to recover, but grandmother, don't worry. Mother's life will not be in danger." Chapter 4587. Although they had already heard Dr. Wu say it before, at this moment, after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's affirmation, everyone was completely relieved. "Granddaughter-in-law, I never thought that you would have such amazing medical skills at such a young age." Di Linxuan's eyes were filled with disbelief. He understood Yin Qing's situation very well. So many doctors had been helpless, and only Dr. Wu had been able to think of a way to delay it. However, he had been unable to cure her. However, the young Bailey Hongzhuang was certain that she would be able to cure her. How could this not be shocking? Hongzhuang was the most famous divine doctor in the lower realm. Di Beichen proudly introduced. "If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to change my cursed body. I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to see everyone now." Di Linxian and the others' gazes changed slightly when they heard this. A complicated feeling crept into their hearts. It had not been easy for Di Beichen to be able to return to the Di family. With so many problems, if there had been even the slightest deviation, he would never have been able to return. Di Linxian patted Di Beichen's shoulder as a light flashed in his eyes. "It's a good thing that the heavens have blessed you and allowed you to return safely." Xia Wanrong continued to hold Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. "Granddaughter-in-law, our entire family would like to thank you. If it wasn't for you, Beichen wouldn't have been able to return alive. The Di family will always remember this great kindness." Di Yujue and Di Xiaofeng also looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. Their hearts were filled with gratitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang. They would always remember this great kindness. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly waved her hand and said, "Grandmother, you're exaggerating. Beichen is my husband. This is what I should do." However, Di Linxian shook his head. "Granddaughter-in-law, your family has always taken good care of Beichen all these years. We understand everything. If it wasn't for your care, no one knows what would have happened. On behalf of the Di family, I would like to express my gratitude to you and your family. Since you have married into the Di family, we will not treat you unfairly. We will treat you as our own granddaughter. You can rest assured that this will be your home. If anyone dares to bully you, no matter who it is, I won't let them off." Di Linxian's expression was solemn and serious, and his words were extremely protective. Long ago, he had already made up his mind that this granddaughter-in-law was his biological granddaughter. Whoever dared to bully her, he would break their legs. Di Yujue and the others smiled when they saw this. This was not only what old Master Li was thinking, but also what they were thinking. Bailey Hongzhuang was inwardly moved. Her sparkling and translucent eyes flickered with light, and her eyes were faintly red. "Grandfather, thank you." Previously, she had been a little nervous and worried that the Di family would not accept her. After all, prejudice against one's social status always existed. The larger the family, the more obvious the prejudice against social status. However, She never thought that old Master Li of the D family would say such words to her in such a serious manner. All of her previous worries disappeared in an instant, and were replaced by a feeling of being overwhelmed by the favor. At this moment, she had truly fallen in love with this family. So this was Beichen's family. So they had long accepted her and treated her as a true family member. Chapter 4588. After Di Linxian finished speaking, the atmosphere became joyous and harmonious again. Ever since they found out about Di Beichen's death, the Di family seemed to have been shrouded in a haze. They hadn't been able to relax for a long time. This day was undoubtedly the happiest day of the Di family, because they were finally reunited. Second brother and sister-in-law are both back. That's great. Di Xiaofeng was overjoyed. He was already very happy when he met Di Beichen. Now that he felt the joy of the whole family, he only felt that this joy was infinitely magnified. Xiao Wanrong looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang who were standing together, then looked at Di Xiaofeng and said, Xiaofeng, look, Beichen is your younger brother. Now that Beichen is married, as his older brother, you still haven't married. Don't you feel embarrassed? Seeing that Xiao Wanrong suddenly changed the topic to him, Di Beichen also looked helpless. Grandmother, you're always urging me. Now that Beichen is married, you should shift your attention to Beichen. Why are you urging me again? Beichen is naturally good in every way, but compared to this, you're really too slow. Xiao Wanrong put on a serious face. However, even if she, who had always been kind, put on a serious face, it wasn't very convincing. Your grandmother is right. Di Linxian also nodded. Xiaofeng, I see that you've been going out a lot these days. You said that you wanted to ask about Beichen. Now that Beichen is back, shouldn't you also focus on your marriage? Your grandmother has found many good girls for you. It's just up to you who you like. Seeing that his grandfather had spoken, Di Xiaofeng only wanted to cry for help. Grandfather, I'm still so young. Why should I be anxious about this? Di Xiaofeng sighed. Besides, I'll find the girl I like myself. Why would I need you to do all this for me? Then bring back a granddaughter-in-law for me. All these years, I've been running around all day. But in the end, I didn't get anything. Xiao Wanrong sighed and shook her head. Not bad. Di Linxian nodded. The old man from the Xiao clan keeps telling me that his grandson is already married. But you're older than him. Yet you haven't done anything. Fortunately, Beichen worked hard and brought back his precious granddaughter-in-law. The next time I see old man Xiao, I have to have a good talk with him. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but smile when they saw Di Linxuan's proud and elated expression. This old man didn't look like the head of the Di family at all. He was just an adorable old man. Sure enough, old people are very cute. They actually know how to compare these things. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. Most importantly, from Di Linxuan's serious expression, she could see that he and old man Xiao were really fighting over this point. Grandfather, don't worry. Big brother should be here soon, Di Beichen said with a faint smile. Although Bailey Yunyan hadn't been together with Di Xiaofeng the last time they met, according to their judgment, it wouldn't be long. In other words, he would have another sister-in-law soon. Following Di Beichen's words, Di Linxian and Xiao Wanrong were both stunned. Even Di Yujue revealed a surprised expression. Really? Xiao Wanrong looked at Di Xiaofeng expectantly. Chapter 4589. Facing Xiao Wanrong's expectant eyes, Di Xiaofeng glanced at Di Beichen helplessly. However, Di Beichen just shrugged and gave him a look that said, Take care of it yourself. Grandmother, don't worry. Are you worried that I won't be able to find a wife? Xiao Wanrong glanced at Di Xiaofeng suspiciously. With your sloppy appearance, I really do have some doubts. Di Xiaofeng's face fell. Grandmother, I remember that before Beichen came back, you didn't say that about me. You used to praise me for being handsome. There must be a lot of young ladies chasing after me to marry me. Did I say that? Xiao Wanrong asked. Di Xiaofeng turned to look at Di Linxian. Grandfather, help me testify. You're already so old and you haven't brought a wife back. It's not convincing at all. Di Linxian said seriously. Di Xiaofeng was speechless and placed his last hope on Di Yujue. Father, should I not have brought Beichen back? Now that Beichen is back, my status has plummeted. Di Yujue only glanced at Di Xiaofeng. Isn't that natural? He could feel that not only did Di Xiaofeng's status drop, but so did his. Seeing that Di Xiaofeng was still unwilling to say who that lady was, Xia Wanrong didn't ask anymore. She just smiled and teased Di Beichen. I didn't expect you two brothers to have a secret. Forget it, forget it. I believe in Beichen. I'll just wait at home with peace of mind. Only then did everyone shift the topic away from Di Xiaofeng. Beichen, Hong Zhuang, you must be tired from the journey back. Go and rest for a while. I'll get someone to prepare dinner. Xia Wanrong looked concerned. Your courtyard has already been built for you. Let's go and take a look. When Di Yujue came back and told them that Beichen and Hong Zhuang had come to the upper realm, they had already built the courtyard and were just waiting for them to come back. However, when they found out that the two of them had died, they were unwilling to mention the courtyard that made them so sad. Who would have thought that things would take a turn for the worse, and this courtyard would come in handy? After hearing that the Di family had rebuilt their courtyard, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were also surprised. However, they were more surprised and touched. Although Xia Wanrong said it very indifferently, such an action already showed that she welcomed them. Grandmother, we also have a few friends who came with us, Di Beichen said. Previously, they were worried about Lin Yunqing's condition, so they immediately rushed over. As for Wen Xiren and the others, they were led to rest by the servants. Now that they were going to their residence, he naturally had to call them over. Don't worry, I'll send someone to inform them, Di Yujue said with a smile. Di Beichen nodded slightly. Only then did he relax and follow everyone to their courtyard. Your courtyard is right next to Xiaofeng's courtyard. It's very close. If you need anything and feel that it's not convenient to talk to us elders, you can contact Xiaofeng directly. Di Linxian smiled, and his voice was even more considerate. Grandfather and grandmother even thought of this for us. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. All of this made them feel incomparably warm. Di Beichen looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, his heart was also filled with gratitude. Chapter 4590. Ever since they arrived at the Di family, Wen Xiren and the others had been led to the living room and served with good food and drinks. Originally, they wanted to know what happened to Di Beichen and his wife after they arrived. Unfortunately, they didn't get to see it with their own eyes. Although they were being served very comfortably, they were still curious about Di Beichen and his wife's situation. I wonder what happened to Beichen and his wife? Shangguan Yingying stood up and paced back and forth in the living room. Her pretty face was filled with curiosity and worry. According to what Dr. Wu said, Beichen's mother's situation doesn't seem too good. I'm really worried. Thinking of this, Shangguan Yingying's face showed a trace of helplessness. Di Beichen had finally returned to the Di family. If something happened to his mother right after he came back, it would be too sad. Since Hong Zhuang is here, with her medical skills, there shouldn't be a problem, right? Xiren frowned and said, in the lower realm, Hong Zhuang's medical skills were top-notch. If it was before, he would definitely think that as long as Bailey Hongzhuang was here, there wouldn't be any problem. Unfortunately, this was the upper realm and not the lower realm. The doctors here were definitely not comparable to the doctors in the lower realm. Since many of the doctors here couldn't think of a solution, it could be seen that the situation was very serious. You don't have to worry. According to what I know, Beichen is the second young master of the Di family. Ao Lingxiao's expression was very calm. It seemed that he wasn't worried at all. All these years, the Di family has spent a lot of effort to find him. Now that he has finally returned, the Di family will definitely welcome him. They definitely won't treat him badly. Indeed, from Beichen's father and Xiaofeng's behavior, we can see how much they value him. At this moment, Mo Yunjue, who had been silent all this time, also expressed his opinion. I'm not worried about Beichen, but I don't know if the Di family will accept Hong Zhuang. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Shangguan Yingying and Wen Xiren couldn't help but look at each other. Sure enough, even now, Mo Yunjue still cared so much about Bailey Hongzhuang. At this time, the first thing he thought of was Bailey Hongzhuang's situation. However, after Mo Yinju's reminder, they also thought of this point. I don't think the D family is that realistic. Hong Zhuang has always been very nice to Beichen, Shengguan Yingying said thoughtfully. I don't know. Ao Lingxiao spread out his hands with a helpless look on his face. It's hard to say what's going on in the big clans. However, I believe that with Beichen's regard for Hong Zhuang, that kind of possibility shouldn't happen. That's true. Shengguan Yingying nodded. If the D family doesn't accept Hong Zhuang, I'm afraid that Beichen will also give up on the D family. Just as they were guessing, a servant suddenly came to inform them to go to D Beichen's courtyard. Hearing this, the servant immediately stood up and walked out without hesitation. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked to their own courtyard under the lead of Xiao Wanrong and the others. In their sight, it wasn't a simple courtyard at all. Instead, it was several rows of houses sitting together. The area was huge. From the surface, it could be seen that this place was newly built. Everything was brand new. Chapter 4591. Although it was an inquiring tone, Xiao Wanrong and the others were very confident. They had specially invited the best craftsmen to build this courtyard according to the style that young people liked the most. As long as there was a need, it could be said that everything was available here. Second brother, sister-in-law. This courtyard was specially prepared for you by grandfather, grandmother, father and mother. They put in a lot of effort. When I first found out, I came to take a look. I have to say, even I can't help but be envious. Di Xiaofeng's face was full of envy. In order to make up for what they owed Beichen over the years, they had done almost everything they could. He believed that no matter who saw this courtyard, it was impeccable. Thank you, grandfather and grandmother. Thank you, father. A smile appeared on Di Beichen's face. To him, no matter where he lived, he didn't care. But he was very touched by everyone's kindness. Although his master had always treated him like his own grandson, he always had a trace of regret in his heart. Now that he felt the warmth of his family, all the regret disappeared completely. Come, let's go in and take a look, Di Linxian said. At the same time, the first elder rushed over with the other elders of the Di family. Almost all the elders had a happy smile on their faces. Their eyes immediately fell on Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Welcome back, second young master and second young madam, the elders said together. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Then a happy smile appeared on their faces. Thank you, elders. I didn't expect the second young master to be so handsome. Second young madam is also a rare beauty. It's really delightful. The second elder's face was full of surprise. Originally, everyone was worried that the second young master had been wandering outside all these years. After returning to the Di family, even if he wasn't used to it, it might be very uncomfortable. After all, different living environments created different people's personalities. All these years, everyone had been trying their best to find the second young master, but they were still worried. Because no one knew how the second young master would grow up. As the saying goes, anything is possible. He could grow up to be an outstanding person. Or he could grow up to be a scum. Everything was unknown. Although Di Yujue had said that the second young master was also very outstanding when he came back, everyone still had doubts in their hearts. Now that everyone had seen it with their own eyes, they were finally able to relax. That's right. When second young master and eldest young master stand together, it's obvious that they're real brothers. This is great. Our family is finally reunited. Di Beichen was also in a good mood at the moment. Ever since he saw Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, the corners of his mouth had never closed. Elders, let's have dinner together later to welcome Beichen and Hongzhuang back. Yes. Come, let's go in and take a look. Then, everyone walked into the courtyard together. Beichen, this is where you and your wife will be staying. Di Linxian pointed at the most conspicuous room and said, we won't be going in. You two can go in and take a look later. Chapter 4592. Behind this is a cultivation room specially set up for you. Di Linxian pointed at the room behind him and introduced. If you cultivate here, the concentration of elemental energy will be much higher than outside. Your cultivation speed will also be much faster. Not only that, there are many places suitable for cultivation behind this room. When the time comes, you too will go and take a look, and you will find out. Di Lin Xian's face was filled with a loving smile, and there was a hint of mystery in it. He felt that it would be better for the two of them to discover these surprises themselves. After hearing that there was a cultivation room specially set up here, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were shocked. They had come into contact with this cultivation room before. If they cultivated here, their cultivation speed would definitely be much faster than outside. However, if they wanted to cultivate in the cultivation room, they would have to pay a hefty price. However, the courtyard that they were living in now had a cultivation room specially set up. How shocking was that? Most importantly, the concentration of elemental energy in the Di family was already very shocking. If they set up a cultivation room in such an environment, one could imagine how fast their cultivation speed would be. Master, your family is really generous. Xiaobai sat on Di Beichen's shoulder, and its little face was filled with amazement. They had never seen such generosity before. Yeah, if I didn't come here, I'm afraid I wouldn't have seen such generosity at all. Xiao He couldn't help but sigh. Although I've never felt poor when I followed Master in the past, this is the first time I've seen such generosity. I suddenly feel that I'm so stylish. Xiao He rubbed its soft fur. It was now a demonic beast with status. Look at how proud you are. White Dragon in the Chaos Ring couldn't help but complain after seeing Xiao He's proud look. That's just how I am. What's wrong? Xiao He pouted. You dare to say that you don't like this place? Ever since White Dragon appeared, it felt very helpless. It was as if they didn't get along, and they would always argue with each other from time to time. This place is really not bad. It's good for our cultivation. White Dragon shrugged and said. Then it's settled. After strolling around the courtyard for a while, Xiao Wanrong said. The two of you must be tired from rushing over. There's still some time before night. Why don't you rest here for a while? I'll send someone to call you over at night. How about it? Thank you, grandmother. Why are you being so polite? But doing something for my precious grandson is what makes me the happiest. Xiao Wanrong happily touched Di Beichen's hand. Now, the more she looked at her grandson and granddaughter-in-law, the more she was satisfied with them. All right, all of you should have a good rest here. In any case, we have already returned. There will be plenty of time in the future. Di Lin Xian also spoke out. Have a good rest. If you need anything, just tell the servants. Don't worry about it. Di Yujua looked at Di Beichen with concern. Originally, he also wanted to drag the two of them to talk more. However, since the two of them came, there was almost no place for him to use his skills. Everything was said by the two of them. We will. Chapter 4593. After Xiao Wanrong and the others left, only Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were left in the courtyard. The two of them smiled at each other and relaxed. Beichen, I didn't expect your family members to be so nice. It seems that my previous worries were unnecessary. Her ink-black phoenix-like eyes twinkled with a bright luster. They were as bright as the Milky Way and carried a strong sense of joy and excitement. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's happy look, Di Beichen smiled and pulled her into his arms. I feel very happy too. In fact, he had always known that Bailey Hongzhuang had been very worried that the person would not accept heaven. Even if he had comforted her, it would have been of no use. To him, family had been an unfamiliar word for so many years, but Bailey Hongzhuang was the most important person in his life. If the Di family had any opinions about Hongzhuang, then he could very well leave his identity as a member of the Di family, because nothing was more important than Bailey Hongzhuang. At the same time, he also understood why Bailey Hongzhuang was so worried and nervous. It was also because she cared about him, and hoped that he could be with his family, and have a happy ending. Perhaps people who truly loved each other were like this. They never wanted the other party to have any regrets. Even if they were the ones who got hurt, they did not care. Fortunately, everything was developing in a good direction. Just as they were talking, Xiren and the others were led to their courtyard by the servants. As soon as they arrived, they noticed Bewitching and Xiaowanrong standing in front of the door. Immediately, they quickened their pace and quickly walked to the two of them. Second young master, second young madam, your friends have arrived. Do you have any other orders? No, you can leave first. Yes. After the servants left, Xiren came up to them. His gentle face was filled with curiosity. How was it? What happened just now? When we were resting there, we were so curious that we almost died. Hurry up and tell us. Looking at Xiren's gossipy appearance, Bewitching only glanced at him before turning around and walking into the house. Then continued to be curious. As soon as he said this, Xiren almost vomited a mouthful of blood and immediately chased after him. Bewitching, don't be like this. Tell us quickly and satisfy our curiosity. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching's back as he left. The smile in her eyes gradually deepened. She understood that Bewitching might not be good at expressing such a scene. He had always been a man, but now that he had experienced such warmth, he must have felt something special in his heart. Hongzhuang, did their family bully you? Shengguan Yingying held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, her face full of worry. Bailey Hongzhuang gently shook her head. No, their family members are very nice. They treat me very well too. Then I'm relieved. We were so worried about this before. Shengguan Yingying sighed in relief. But I think that since you're so outstanding, their family members have no reason to be dissatisfied with you. As soon as she finished speaking, Shengguan Yingying noticed the brand new and outstanding decorations in the house. Her eyes lit up and she could not help but exclaim, "Wow, the decorations in this place are so beautiful. This is the house of my dreams. Just thinking about it, it must be very comfortable for you to live here." Chapter 4594. The interior of the house was very elegant. It was simple but not monotonous. It was low-key and meticulous. With just one look, Bailey Hongzhuang fell in love with this place. Although she didn't have any requirements for a place to live, she could still tell at a glance that everything here was probably expensive. Wow, Hongzhuang, I'm so envious of you. Shengguan Yingying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang enviously. This was the life of a young madam of a top family. How could she not be envious? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She held Shengguan Yingying's hand and said, "What's there to be envious of? We're living here together. Yingying, if you keep talking like this, maybe your Xiren will get jealous." Ao Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows and mockingly smiled at Xiren. Shengguan Yingying waved her hand indifferently. "I'm telling the truth. But Xiren won't mind." Hearing Shengguan Yingying's words, the corners of Xiren's lips curled up. Just when he thought that his wife would really give him face, Shengguan Yingying's next sentence made his thoughts disappear completely. "Of course, even if he minds, it's useless." Hee. Ao Ling Xiao shrugged and smiled at Xiren. It was obvious that he was teasing him. "Bewitching, you really won't say?" Xiren looked at Bewitching and asked again. "I won't say. Forget it." Xiren glared at Bewitching and then turned his head. The curiosity in his eyes didn't diminish. "Then I'll go ask Hongzhuang." "Hongzhuang, tell us." Seeing that Xiren had turned his attention to her, Bailey Hongzhuang felt helpless. She then looked at Bewitching and said, "Everything is fine. What you were worried about didn't happen." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone felt relieved. Actually, there is no need to worry about this at all. Just by looking at the residence that the D family has prepared for Bewitching, you can see how much they welcome Bewitching back. Ao Ling Xiao said with a chuckle. Mo Yunjue was as silent as ever. He was originally worried that the D family would be dissatisfied with Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that he knew that none of this had happened, he was relieved. In fact, he also understood that Bewitching's feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang were no less than his own. Thinking about it, if the D family had any dissatisfaction with Bailey Hongzhuang, Bewitching would have stood out immediately. Now we can be completely at ease. Xiren breathed a sigh of relief. "When we came here before, we were worried that you were being chased. Originally, we thought that the process of coming to the D family would be very difficult, but we didn't expect that the later part would be so smooth." Everyone nodded. They had the same thought. Previously, they only felt that the resistance was endless, and that the time of their return might be endless. Fortunately, Di Xiaofeng had appeared. However, they also understood that if the Di family hadn't found the traitor Di Kaiyuan, they probably wouldn't have gone to Rome and city so quickly. Beichen, how is Aunt now? Mo Yunjue asked. Yes, how is Aunt? Shangguan Yingying also asked. Her situation is a bit serious, but it won't be fatal. She just needs some time to recuperate. Don't worry, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Chapter 4595. That's good. We can rest assured now. When Xiren nodded slightly, he and Di Beichen had been good brothers for so many years. Now that they were finally reunited, he was happy for Di Beichen. We'll stay here for the next few days, Di Beichen said slowly. There are cultivation rooms and other arrangements at the back. I'm sure our cultivation speed will be faster here. Why don't we take a look? Hearing Di Beichen's words, the eyes of Wen Xiren and the others lit up. When they arrived at the Di family, they felt that their cultivation speed would be extremely fast here. Especially when they arrived at the place where the direct descendants lived, their feeling became even stronger. In such a rich vitality environment, they were almost certain that they would be able to break through very quickly. What's more, there were cultivation rooms here. Needless to say, the speed of cultivation here would be far faster than usual. That's great. Shangguan Yingying nodded excitedly. After coming to the upper realm, almost all the cultivators here are stronger than us. It's quite unpleasant. Now that Beichen is the second young master of the Di family, he'll be surrounded by God's favored children. Naturally, we can't be too weak. Hearing this, everyone's expressions became more solemn. Ever since they came to the upper realm, this sense of urgency had been lingering in their hearts. After coming here, this feeling became even more obvious. Everyone knew that Beichen had been wandering outside for all these years. The cultivation environment here was quite different from the cultivation environment of the aristocratic families in the upper realm. However, when the time came for them to meet those cultivators, they would not care about this point. They would only see Di Beichen's identity as the second young master of the Di family. Let's go and take a look, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Everyone immediately walked to the back of the courtyard. There were many rooms here, but the rooms related to cultivation were built together, which was very convenient. Immediately, everyone walked into the cultivation room. After entering, everyone realized that there was no difference between this place and the outside world. But soon, Di Beichen found a switch in the room. After he turned it on, everyone felt that the yuan qi in the air suddenly became rich. The more time passed, the denser the yuan qi became. Everyone could feel the increasingly dense yuan qi around them, and the shock in their eyes intensified. It's already 3 times deeper than the outside, and it's still getting deeper. How terrifying is this? Xiren couldn't help but exclaim. One must know that the concentration of yuan qi in the residence of the Di family's direct descendants was already several times that of the outside world. Now that the concentration of yuan qi here was several times higher, it was simply terrifying. Mo Yunjue couldn't help but be shocked. The generosity of a great family was far beyond what they could imagine. If one cultivated in such an environment all year round, as long as they had a little talent, their achievements wouldn't be bad. Moreover, Di Beichen had the heavenly mandate constitution. If he cultivated here, one could imagine his cultivation speed. Finally, when the concentration of yuan qi in the cultivation room reached 4 times that of the outside world, it stopped increasing. This is too scary. I feel that the yuan qi around me is condensing into a substance. I don't even need to cultivate. The yuan qi is automatically being absorbed. Chapter 4596. Aoling Xiao, among us, you're the one who understands the situation in the upper realm the most. Shangguan Yingying looked at Aoling Xiao. Do the people here all cultivate like this? No wonder their strength is so terrifying. Aoling Xiao shook his head. The cultivators in the upper realm do know how to set up spirit gathering arrays. The energy in the cultivation area is much denser than in the lower realm, but the Di family's extravagance is not something that can be seen everywhere. According to my understanding, even in the upper realm, it's not something that an ordinary person can set up. The D family definitely spent a lot of effort for Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. It seemed that they had underestimated everyone's intentions towards them. Maybe grandfather and the others also thought that with my current cultivation, there's a certain gap between me and the disciples of the other families. So they built this cultivation room. On one hand, it's also to allow me to raise my cultivation faster. Di Beichen said slowly. Although he had always been called a genius in the lower realm, he was very clear that after coming to the upper realm, this kind of halo should be thrown away. After all, none of the outstanding disciples here were simple. From Di Xiaofeng's cultivation, one could see the gap between them, and he had already changed his mindset. Although he fell behind in the past, as long as he worked hard, he would still have a chance to catch up. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Let's take advantage of this time to cultivate properly. Originally, everyone was prepared to look at other cultivation areas after looking at the cultivation room, but after feeling the dense energy here, they didn't have any thoughts of leaving. Such a good cultivation opportunity naturally had to be grasped. Cultivating in this kind of environment, they were confident that they could break through to the next level as quickly as possible. However, when it was time for dinner, everyone still came out of their cultivation state. They could cultivate at any time. Today was Di Beichen's return, and the Di family's people were holding a welcome dinner for him, so they couldn't not go. Through this banquet, Xiren and the others thoroughly understood how important Di Beichen was to the Di family. When Xiren and Shangguan Yingying were flabbergasted when they saw the Di family's old master and old madam being so affectionate towards Di Beichen. This situation was much more exaggerated than they had imagined. They were stunned by the way he kept calling them his precious grandson and his precious granddaughter-in-law. Looks like Beichen is not just a little spoiled. Look at that scene. Old madam and old master only had eyes for Beichen and Hongzhuang. On the way back, Xiren recalled the scene as he walked. With Di Beichen's usual image and his adorable grandson, it was a huge contrast. We don't have to worry in the future. We can just rely on Beichen and Hongzhuang. We don't have to worry about food and clothing. Di Beichen glanced at Xiren. You didn't rely on my wife before? Xiren was speechless for a moment. Speaking of which, ever since they went to Penglai Island, they had been relying on Beichen and Shangguan Yingying. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to earn cultivation resources just by relying on them. After the banquet, the Di family's old master and the others also recovered from their joy and immediately sent someone to inform the Lin family. Chapter 4597. Previously, everyone had been immersed in the joy of Di Beichen's return. In such a short period of time, even some people in the family did not know about this news. It was only after the banquet had ended that everyone was completely certain that their second young master had really returned. Old man Lin has ridiculed me over this matter many times over the years. However, the fault lies with the Di family, so I could only accept his ridicule. Now that Beichen has finally returned, they should be able to set their hearts at ease. Di Linshuan's eyes rippled with a complicated light. Although his words were filled with helplessness, there was a faint sense of guilt in his voice. This matter was indeed the fault of the Di family. A few days ago, Yunqing had fallen seriously ill, and we've already sent someone to inform them. Based on how much importance the in-laws place on Yunqing, they might already be on their way, and will arrive very soon. Xia Wanrong pondered and said, all these years, Yunqing's health has not been very good. This time, it's even more serious. The in-laws have been very worried. Actually, they had wanted to bring Yunqing back long ago, but Yunqing did not agree. As she spoke, Xia Wanrong could not help but sigh. Yunqing is a good daughter-in-law. She should have been very happy, but it's a pity that something like this happened. As a result, Yunqing has been depressed all these years. I've seen everything, and I feel terrible for her. She only had this one daughter-in-law, and had always treated her as her daughter from the bottom of her heart. Originally, their family had been happy and harmonious, but ever since that incident, The situation had begun to change. They had not seen Yunqing smile for more than 20 years. Now that they thought about it, they really missed it. Old woman, don't think so much. Di Linqian slowly spoke. Didn't granddaughter-in-law say that Yunqing will recover slowly? It's a good thing that they still have a long life ahead of them. Although they haven't been very happy all these years, they can still make up for it in the future. Xiao Wanrong nodded slightly. That's true. Actually, Yujua has been very miserable all these years. He's the one who's suffering the most, but every time he comes back, he's chased away by you. Your temper is really... Hearing this, Di Linqian fell into silence. You always have this expression whenever we talk about this. Don't mention this again in the future. Got it? When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to the courtyard, they once again entered the cultivation room to cultivate. It was not until the next day that Bailey Hongzhuang went to Lin Yunqing's residence. A large part of Lin Yunqing's illness was her heart disease. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang not only needed to treat her with medicine, but also needed to find a way to comfort her. Only by doing both at the same time could he recover faster. Dr. Wu had already taken the herbs that Bailey Hongzhuang had listed. He was actually very curious about what method Bailey Hongzhuang was going to use to treat Lin Yunqing. However, when he saw Lin Yunqing's mental state today, he could not help but be shocked. It had been a long time since he had seen Lin Yunqing with such a good complexion. Although she was still paler than ordinary people, she was obviously much better than her previous morbid state. Not only that, but Lin Yunqing also became more spirited, and her eyes became more spirited. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had arrived, a smile immediately appeared on Lin Yunqing's face. Miss, you're here. Chapter 4598. Lin Yunqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a gentle smile and said, I don't know if it's because you came, but I slept exceptionally well yesterday. When I woke up today, I felt that I haven't felt so energetic in a long time. Ever since she found out about Beichen's death, she had been having nightmares and had not had a good night's sleep. However, she had slept the entire night yesterday and felt much more comfortable. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, That must be because Madam wants to know more about Beichen. Yesterday, she had given Lin Yunqing a pill to nourish her body. At the same time, she had combed Lin Yunqing's body with silver needles. However, the depression had been there for a long time, and she had only cleared it up a little. Fortunately, from Lin Yunqing's current state, her methods were effective. As long as this continued, Beichen and Madam would be able to meet in 2 days' time. The reason why she did not let them meet previously was because Lin Yunqing's body was too weak. She would not be able to withstand the slightest stimulation. Once Lin Yunqing could withstand it, it would be best to let Di Beichen meet her. Because in this way, Lin Yunqing would not have any thoughts of dying. With Di Beichen's company, her recovery speed would be astonishing. Then what are you going to talk to me about today? Lin Yunqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang happily. These days, she had felt that life was meaningless, and Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance made her understand that there were still things she wanted to know. Tell me about how Beichen and his wife met. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Regarding Di Beichen's past, she only knew about it from her grandfather's mouth. What she really knew was after she and Di Beichen met. You also know Beichen's wife? Lin Yunqing's eyes lit up as she asked. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yes. I heard that Miss Bailey is a very outstanding lady. It's a pity that I didn't get to see it with my own eyes. Lin Yunqing felt a wave of regret. How great would it be if her son and daughter-in-law could come back? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and immediately began to tell the story of how she met Beichen. Now that she thought about it again, she felt that it was very funny. She used to be the daughter of a general in an ordinary kingdom, but now they had come to another world. Such a change really made one sigh. Outside, Dr. Wu could hear Lin Yunqing's laughter from time to time. His calm face was filled with relief and sighs. The second young master indeed had good taste to find such a good wife. If it were anyone else, it would be very difficult for them to do what Bailey Hongzhuang did. After chatting for a while Lin Yunqing was taking a nap, Bailey Hongzhuang used the silver needles to help Lin Yunqing tidy up her depression before walking out of the room. Second young madam, all the herbs you need are here. Do you want to decoct the medicine? Dr. Wu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and shook her head. Madam has been drinking medicine for such a long time. Presumably, she is already tired of it. If you let her drink it again, she might not be willing to accept it. Hearing this, Dr. Wu nodded. Indeed, Lin Yunqing was not willing to drink this medicine. In fact, if it was anyone else who drank this bitter medicine every day, no one would be willing. Chapter 4599. I'll go make some medicinal cuisine and add these herbs into the meal. I'm sure Madam will be more willing to accept it. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Medicinal cuisine? Dr. Wu was a little surprised. There aren't many types of medicinal cuisine. It'll be difficult to incorporate all these herbs into the meal, right? Compared to taking medicine, medicinal cuisine was undoubtedly more acceptable. However, there were very few types of medicinal cuisine. At most, only one or two of these herbs could be made. Furthermore, making medicinal cuisine required a lot of effort. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I have a way. After saying that, she quickly walked out. At this time, Lin Yunqing was only taking a nap. Even if she helped to sort out the depression in her body, she probably wouldn't sleep for too long. She had to quickly prepare. Dr. Wu's eyes flickered as he watched Bailey Hongzhuang quickly leave. He was now more and more surprised by this second madam's methods. To be honest, there weren't many people who understood medicinal cuisine. Only doctors like them would have some understanding of it. However, most doctors weren't willing to spend time and energy in this aspect. However, based on the confidence on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, could she really incorporate all these herbs into the meal? One had to know that medicinal cuisine wasn't just about blending the herbs into the meal. The taste of the herbs had to be removed. At the same time, the side dishes couldn't affect the effects of the herbs. It was easy to say, but it was very difficult to achieve this. Thinking of this, Dr. Wu even wanted to follow her to take a look. However, he was already so old. It didn't seem appropriate for him to follow behind a young lady to see how she made medicinal cuisine. Therefore, no matter how curious he was in his heart, he still suppressed this idea and waited for Bailey Hongzhuang to finish preparing the medicinal cuisine before he took a look. Bailey Hongzhuang took the herbs into the kitchen. When the servants in the kitchen saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they were all shocked. Second madam, why did you come to the kitchen personally? If you need anything, just tell us and we'll get it ready. Everyone was terrified. Although it was the first time for many of them to see Bailey Hongzhuang, they knew that the second young master and second young madam had returned. Moreover, the second young madam was a rare beauty. From the moment Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, they didn't have to doubt. Such a beautiful woman. Other than the second madam, who else could it be? Looking at everyone's panicked expression, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved her hand. I'm going to make some medicinal cuisine for madam. You don't have to worry about it. Just do what you need to do. Second young madam, how can this be? Everyone hurriedly voiced out. This was the second young madam of the family. How could they let her personally cook? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. It's fine. I'm sure you're not familiar with this medicinal cuisine. Why don't I make it? However, I do need you to prepare some ingredients for me. Second young madam, please give me your orders. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang walked to the side and began to prepare the medicinal cuisine with practiced ease. Although she rarely cooked after transmigrating, her culinary skills were actually quite good. Back then, the old man in her family would sometimes act like a child. When he got older, he would inevitably need to take medicine. However, they were unwilling. Chapter 4600. Initially, the servants did not really understand the second young madam's temper. Now that they saw how the second young madam was seriously and skillfully making medicinal cuisine for the madam, and how amiable she was towards them, they were relieved. At the very least, the second young madam was not a difficult person to serve. As Bailey Hongzhuang prepared one medicinal cuisine after another, A rich aroma filled the air. Everyone could not help but have a great appetite when they smelled the aroma. The second young madam's culinary skills are extraordinary. This medicinal cuisine looks, smells great. If we hadn't seen her putting the herbs in with our own eyes, how could we believe that this was a medicinal cuisine? The second young madam, who has returned from outside, is indeed different from the other young ladies from aristocratic families. How could the other young ladies from aristocratic families know how to cook? It's great that the second young master has returned, but the second young master and second young madam are both from the lower realm. They can't be compared to the disciples from the other aristocratic families. Some of the servants could not help but sigh. They knew very well about the competition between aristocratic families. Even though the elders rarely made a move, the competition between the younger generation had never been rare. There would be a competition almost every once in a while. The results also represented each person's reputation. Now that the second young master had returned, the news would definitely spread very quickly. By then, many people would want to test the second young master's standards. If the second young master's power was far inferior to others, he would probably be laughed at. There's nothing we can do about that. The second young master has just returned, so it's normal for his cultivation to be inferior to theirs. If they had stayed in the lower realm, they might not even be as good as our second young master. Of course, that's what we think, but they might not think the same. All in all, this matter is more troublesome. I heard that the second young master has the heavenly mandate constitution. Perhaps his cultivation will catch up after a while. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was preparing the medicinal cuisine, overheard the whispers. She sighed to herself. The situation was indeed as they had expected. The challenge that Bewitching had to face after his return was not small. However, she believed that they would be able to face whatever the situation was. Even if they were looked down upon by others, it was not a big deal. It was not as if they had not experienced this before. As long as they worked hard, there was a chance for them to surpass others. After Bailey Hongzhuang finished preparing the medicinal cuisine, the servants followed her to Lin Yunqing's residence. As soon as they arrived, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng were both in the courtyard. "Why are you here?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled at the two of them, obviously not expecting them to come out at this time. "We want to see how mother's mother," said Di Beichen's Di's Li's. "Is mother? S's mother young master. S's mother's condition is gradually improving. Her mental state is a lot better today. If this continues, you will be able to see her in 2 days." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. As soon as these words came out, Di Beichen's eyes lit up. Until now, he still didn't know what his mother looked like. However, Di Xiaofeng's attention was completely attracted by the food behind Bailey Hongzhuang. "This food smells so good. Why haven't I eaten these dishes before?" Chapter 4601. Hearing Di Xiaofeng's words, Di Beichen's attention was also on the food. The rich aroma was indeed very appetizing. Just looking at it made people drool. "This is the medicinal cuisine I prepared for mother." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "Mother drinks medicine every day and is very resistant to medicine. I made it into a medicinal cuisine. I think mother will like it." Perhaps she didn't need to be so meticulous with other patients. But Lin Yunqing had a mental illness. What she needed the most now was to make herself happy. As long as she was in a good mood, many problems would be easily solved. Moreover, she was Di Beichen's mother. She naturally had to take care of her. Sister-in-law made it herself? Di Xiaofeng was surprised. He then looked at Di Beichen enviously. "Second brother, you're really lucky. Sister-in-law's cooking is also so good." Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with bright eyes. In the past, he rarely ate the food prepared by Bailey Hongzhuang. In fact, they spent more time on cultivation and didn't have much time to be together. "I'll take this medicinal cuisine in first. I hope mother can eat more." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Sister-in-law, why don't I go in with you? I'll chat with mother." Di Xiaofeng's face was full of joy. "Isn't mother lonely eating alone? She'll be in a better mood with me." "Big brother, your real purpose shouldn't be this, right? Di Beichen looked at Di Xiaofeng and directly exposed his cover. Di Xiaofeng chuckled. I'll take this opportunity to try sister-in-law's cooking. Sister-in-law is already yours. No one can take her away. I'm just trying sister-in-law's cooking. You don't have to hide it, right? Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. Di Beichen felt helpless. His big brother wasn't much older than him. Adding on his personality, he was really helpless. Big brother is right. It is indeed boring for mother to eat alone. With you accompanying her, mother's mood will definitely be better. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into an elegant and charming smile. Right now, her mother's biggest concern was Di Xiaofeng. With Di Xiaofeng by her side, her mother would definitely be very happy. Then let's go in. Di Xiaofeng nodded and said to Beichen. Beichen, I'll have to trouble you to stay outside for now. After 2 days we'll go in together. All right. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Xiaofeng approached, Dr. Wu also walked over. He had always been curious about what kind of medicinal cuisine Bailey Hongzhuang had prepared. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang approaching, he immediately looked over. When he saw the delicious meal, his eyes were filled with surprise. Second young madam, did you mix those herbs into the food? At first glance, he could tell that the food tasted very good. It moved his taste buds. Even though he was used to eating delicacies, he couldn't help but want to move his chopsticks. The most important thing was that he didn't smell any medicinal herbs in the food. How did Bailey Hongzhuang do it? Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. I don't plan to tell madam that this is a medicinal cuisine. Maybe it will be better. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's affirmation, Dr. Wu sighed in his heart. With second young madam, there's really no need to worry about madam's illness. Chapter 4602. Lin Yunqing woke up after smelling a strong fragrance. When she opened her eyes, she found Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Xiaofeng were both there. It smells so good. Hearing Lin Yunqing's movements, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but turn around with smiles on their faces. Mother, you're awake. Lin Yunqing nodded slightly. Xiaofeng, don't run outside this time. Yes. Di Xiaofeng smiled. I'll stay in the family this time to accompany mother. By the way, Ying prepared a lot of delicious food for you. Come and try it. Di Xiaofeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Before, Bailey Hongzhuang had already told him that for convenience, she directly used Bailey Hongzhuang's name in front of Lin Yunqing. After all, Lin Yunqing already knew Bailey Hongzhuang's name from Di Yujue. If it was her real name, she would have known it long ago. Hearing this, Lin Yunqing looked at the delicious dishes on the table, and a look of surprise appeared on her face. These were all made by Ying? Isn't that so? You've tasted our family's chef's cooking. One look, and you can tell it's not their cooking. Indeed. Lin Yunqing smiled faintly. When she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, her gaze became gentler. Ying, thank you so much. She had never seen such a considerate girl, who cared so much about her. This was a kind of concern from the bottom of her heart. She could feel it. It was really hard to imagine that such a young girl would care so much about someone like her, who had one foot in the coffin. Originally, she didn't have any expectations of living, but ever since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, she felt that her condition was much better. There was a big difference from usual. Madam, you're too polite. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Right now, her biggest wish was for Lin Yunqing's condition to gradually improve. For this, she was willing to do anything. Mother, come and try Ying's cooking. Di Xiaofeng smiled. Yes, it won't be good if the food gets cold. Okay. Lin Yunqing smiled, and sat down at the table with Bailey Hongzhuang's help. Ying, come and eat with us. Lin Yunqing gently called out. Madam, you guys eat. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Lin Yunqing's expression turned serious. These dishes were all prepared by you. Naturally, we have to eat them together. Otherwise, I would feel embarrassed to eat them. Ying, mother is right, sit down and eat with us. There was a faint smile in Di Xiaofeng's eyes. Based on his understanding of his mother, he could tell that she liked Hongzhuang very much from her behavior. If mother knew her daughter-in-law, she would be even happier. However, Di Xiaofeng's happy expression had another meaning in Lin Yunqing's eyes. When she heard that Bailey Hongzhuang was brought back by Di Xiaofeng, she found it very strange. After all, Di Xiaofeng had never brought back a woman in all these years. Now that Di Xiaofeng was at the age to get married, and Bailey Hongzhuang was a rare beauty, maybe the two of them were in love with each other. If Bailey Hongzhuang could become her daughter-in-law, that would be great. Let me try this dish and see if it's really delicious. Di Xiaofeng chuckled, and immediately put a piece of fish into his mouth. In the next second, Di Xiaofeng's eyes widened, and he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. Chapter 4603. In fact, she hadn't cooked for a long time. Although she had a certain amount of confidence in her cooking skills, she couldn't guarantee that the taste would be the same as before. Di Xiaofeng stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, then gave her a thumbs up and nodded. It's really delicious. Seeing Di Xiaofeng's expression, the smile in Lin Yunqing's eyes gradually deepened. It seemed that Xiaofeng really liked Yingying. She knew that her son had always been very picky when it came to food. It wasn't easy to get him to praise it. However, it was so exaggerated now. If he didn't like it, she wouldn't believe it at all. In the next second, Lin Yunqing also took a bite. Then her gaze also changed. Auntie, is this food to your liking? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. Lin Yunqing's face was full of surprise. She originally thought that everything Di Xiaofeng had said was just to make Bailey Hongzhuang happy. Now that she had tasted it, she realized that everything Di Xiaofeng had said was true. It was so delicious. Even the Di family's chef definitely couldn't make it. It was so delicious that she almost wanted to bite her tongue off. Yingying, I didn't expect your cooking skills to be so good. This is the first time I've eaten such delicious food. Lin Yunqing said bluntly. She had lived for so many years, and it was indeed the first time she had eaten such delicious food. Di Xiaofeng nodded. It's really delicious. As he spoke, Di Xiaofeng's chopsticks didn't stop moving. From his performance, it could be seen how delicious the food was. Seeing Di Xiaofeng and Lin Yunqing's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also revealed a deep smile of joy. As long as you like it. Xiao He also felt a little hungry after seeing Di Xiaofeng eating heartily. It hadn't eaten much of its master's food before. It really wanted to try it. Master, this is a medicinal cuisine. Is it okay for Di Xiaofeng to eat like this? Xiao He couldn't help but ask. It's okay. Bailey Hongzhuang replied. These herbs are used to nourish. With these ingredients, the effect is relatively mild. Anyone can eat it. Dr. Wu was originally very curious about the taste of Bailey Hongzhuang's dishes. At this moment, hearing Di Xiaofeng and Lin Yunqing's praises, the curiosity in his heart couldn't help but grow stronger. Madam, young master. Dr. Wu slowly walked in. His eyes quietly fell on the medicinal cuisine. Bailey Hongzhuang. Lin Yunqing also extended an invitation. During this period of time, Dr. Wu had also spent a lot of energy on her illness. He basically stayed in her courtyard all day long. In fact, she was very clear in her heart that Dr. Wu had always wanted to make her a medical examiner, but she didn't cooperate. While they were talking, another group of distinguished guests arrived at the Di family. As soon as Lin Wenlan arrived at the Di family, she hurriedly walked inside. The cultivators of the Di family all knew that she was the family heads-in-law, so how could they dare to neglect her? In fact, they did not even dare to stop them, and allowed Lin Wenlan and the others to directly rush in. Immediately, they could only hurriedly inform the family head. Di Yujue rushed over as soon as he heard the news. When Lin Wenlan saw Di Yujue, the anger in her heart rushed up. Chapter 4605. Lin Wenlan only had one precious daughter, Lin Yunqing. He had treated her like the apple of his eye since she was young. Back then, there had been so many talented young men who had pursued Lin Yunqing, but he had not taken a fancy to any of them. He felt that it would be a loss for his precious daughter to marry anyone. In the end, Di Yujue and Lin Yunqing were in love with each other, so he had agreed. Although he had agreed, He did not have a good impression of this stinking brat. After all, he had kidnapped his precious daughter. Fortunately, Di Yujue was also an outstanding genius, and was very sincere to Yunqing, so he had agreed. Initially, after Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichen had been born one after the other, he had gradually found this son-in-law pleasing to the eye. However, he never thought that this stupid son-in-law would actually lose his precious grandson. Such a bizarre thing had actually happened. When he had first heard about it, he had not dared to believe it at all. However, it was all true, and he was about to die from anger. Ever since this incident had happened, everyone had fallen into torment. Ever since Lin Yunqing had been born, he had not been willing to let his precious daughter shed a single tear. However, Yunqing had washed her face with tears every day, and he could not do anything about it. Needless to say, he was very depressed. Not long ago, he had found out that this stupid son-in-law had finally found traces of his grandson. However, before he could rejoice for a moment, he had found out that his precious grandson had fallen, and the culprit was the Di family's housekeeper. When he had found out about this, he had almost died from anger. Most importantly, his daughter had fallen ill because of this grievous news, and her days were numbered. His heartache could not be expressed in words. If he had known this earlier, he would never have married Lin Yunqing to Di Yujue. Unfortunately, things had already come to this point. Even if he regretted it, it was useless. Yunqing's condition has improved slightly. If it had been anyone else who had scolded Di Yujue as a stinking brat, he would have crippled that person immediately. However, the person who had scolded him was his father-in-law, so Di Yujue could only obediently accept the scolding. In fact, in these years, every time he saw Lin Wenlan, he would inevitably be scolded. Improved? Lin Wenlan scoffed coldly. It's all your fault. If it had not been for you, how could Yunqing have ended up like this? When he thought of the suffering his daughter had suffered all these years, he really wanted to hit her. However, he also knew that although Yunqing had been suffering because of Beichen, she had always had Di Yujue in her heart. Previously, everyone had seen her feelings for Di Yujue. If that wasn't the case, Lin Yunqing wouldn't have kept rejecting his offer to bring Lin Yunqing back. Father-in-law, Yunqing's condition is gradually improving. I believe she will recover in a few days, Di Yujue hurriedly said. Recover? Lin Wenlan was furious. You've already sent back news that Yunqing can't hold on any longer. Even Dr. Wu has tried everything, but it's useless. Do you think I'll believe what you're telling me now? It's useless to say more unless you can find Beichen and bring him back. But now it's meaningless. If Yunqing really dies because of this, I won't let you off. Old master, Yun Yishan could not help but speak up to dissuade Lin Wenlan when she saw him scolding Di Yujue nonstop. Her old man had always been like this. As long as he had anything to do with Yunqing, he would become like this. Chapter 4606. After listening to Yun Yishan's words, Lin Wenlan's tone became slightly more restrained. However, he really couldn't take this lying down. He only had one precious daughter. If something happened to her, what should he do? He had been so anxious and worried all the way here. Since things have come to this, don't blame Yujue anymore. He didn't want this to happen. Yun Yishan sighed. She felt helpless and distressed about this matter. However, she knew that Yujue didn't want this to happen. Moreover, didn't they find out that it was all a conspiracy? This proved that Di Yujue didn't end up like this because he was careless, but because he was set up by someone. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, actually. Di Yujue was about to explain to them that Beichen was back, and all the problems were solved. However, Lin Wenlan was obviously not interested in listening to him, and said directly, "Let's go and see Yunqing first." Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng walked outside, after leaving Lin Yunqing's courtyard. They came back in a hurry yesterday. In addition, his grandfather and grandmother put all their attention on Di Beichen. He didn't even have a chance to have a good chat with his father. He should take this opportunity to go over. However, halfway through the journey, Di Beichen found that Di Yujue was being scolded by an elder. He didn't even have the slightest chance to talk back. Moreover, he had to wear a smile on his face. Given Di Yujue's status, It was simply impossible for something like this to happen. This is. Bewitching looked at the scene in front of him in astonishment. He thought of the elder's identity. Di Xiaofeng also sighed after noticing this scene. Second brother. Now that you've seen it with your own eyes, you know that I didn't lie to you before, right? All these years, grandfather and maternal grandfather have been like this every time they see father. Thinking about it, it's not easy for father. Di Xiaofeng knew his maternal grandfather very well. His maternal grandfather's love for his mother had reached the level of insanity. Therefore, one could imagine the pressure his father had to bear. Hearing this, Bewitching also knew that his guess was right. The elder in front of him was his maternal grandfather. However, when he heard Di Xiaofeng mention it to him, he didn't directly feel it. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, he couldn't help but be stunned. Di Yujue was really helpless. His explanation was abruptly interrupted by his father-in-law. He simply didn't say anything. His father-in-law would naturally figure everything out later. Grandfather, grandmother, you're here. Di Xiaofeng's face revealed a happy smile. He immediately pulled Bewitching's hands quickly. After seeing Di Xiaofeng, a smile suddenly appeared on Lin Wenlan's face. That loving look was a completely different person from her previous serious look. Xiaofeng, you're back too. Di Xiaofeng replied. I came back not long ago. Lin Wenlan nodded slightly. With such a big thing happening at home, you should indeed come back. Your mother's health isn't good now. If you have time, spend more time with her and let her relax. Yes, grandfather. While speaking, Lin Wenlan's gaze couldn't help but fall on Bewitching, who was beside Di Xiaofeng. Chapter 4607. He had long known about his grandson's appearance. Ordinary young people would inevitably be overshadowed when standing beside Di Xiaofeng. However, the young man in front of him looked even younger than Di Xiaofeng, but standing next to him, he was on par with Di Xiaofeng. His elegance was not hidden at all. Not only that, but he also felt that he saw a familiar shadow on this young man. On the side, Yunishan was also looking at Bewitching. This was a young man who could not be ignored at a glance. He had a handsome appearance and an otherworldly temperament. Standing beside Di Xiaofeng, he was like a brother. The strangest thing was that she could vaguely see Lin Yunqing's shadow on this young man's face. She couldn't pinpoint exactly where they resembled each other, but there were some similarities in their eyebrows and eyes. She was curious about this young man at the first moment. Lin Wenlan and Yunishan had not seen Bewitching's portrait before, or they would have recognized him at first glance. Xiaofeng, this young man is? Lin Wenlan asked slowly. For some reason, he liked this young man very much at first sight. Hearing Lin Wenlan's question, Di Xiaofeng was slightly taken aback. Grandfather, you still don't know who he is? Lin Wenlan frowned slightly. This is my first time seeing this young man. How would I know who he is? While saying that, Lin Wenlan secretly cursed in his heart. Could this young man be a young talent from some family? How did he not notice? Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng could not help but laugh. Haha, grandfather, the precious grandson you have been thinking about all these years is here. He thought that his grandfather already knew this news, but he did not expect him to ask such a question. He could not help but feel that it was very interesting. Following Di Xiaofeng's words, Lin Wenlan and Yunishan were both taken aback. They did not immediately understand what Di Xiaofeng meant. However, after they understood the meaning, their expressions could not help but change. They widened their eyes and looked at Bewitching in disbelief. You mean he is Bewitching? Yunishan could not help but ask. Although this sentence was full of uncertainty, she felt that the young man in front of her was more and more like a combination of Lin Yunqing and Di Yujue. When she saw him before, she felt that he was very familiar, but her rationality told her that it was impossible. Now, after hearing this news, she completely understood that this young man was Bewitching. Di Xiaofeng smiled and nodded. Yes, Bewitching is back. Grandfather already sent someone to send the news back. Don't you know? Yunishan shook her head. Maybe we missed it on the way. They had been on their way here before. Although the two families had a lot of contact, the distance between them wasn't close. It would take a long time to travel, so it was normal for them to miss each other along the way. In the next second, Yun Yishan and Lin Wenlan could not help but step forward and quickly walk to Di Beichen's side. The two elders could not hide the excitement on their faces. They stared at Di Beichen excitedly. "Beichen, you are really Beichen." "Grandfather, grandmother," Di Beichen called out. Chapter 4608. Hearing Di Beichen's voice, Lin Wenlan and Yun Yishan could not help but look at each other, their eyes filled with ecstasy. Beichen is really back. All these years, they had been looking forward to finding their lost grandson. However, every time they received news, they were disappointed. They didn't expect that their dream would finally come true. "Good boy. It's good that you're back." The two elders' eyes were slightly wet, and their emotions were complicated. For a moment, they did not know what to say. This surprise came too suddenly. It was as if the things in their dreams had suddenly become reality. For a moment, they were doubting whether this was a dream or reality. "When did Beichen come back?" Lin Wenlan asked with a smile. Originally, when he came to the Di family, he was full of anger, but now that he saw Di Beichen, his anger quietly dissipated. "He just came back yesterday," Di Beichen replied. Yun Yishan was unwilling to let go of Di Beichen's hand, as if she let go, her grandson would run away. "Beichen, have you been suffering out there all these years?" Her gentle voice was full of love and concern, but more than that, heartache. "Grandmother, I've been living very well. I haven't suffered," Di Beichen replied with a smile. If in the past, he felt that he was abandoned by his family and was an orphan, and felt lonely and sad, now he only felt that he was really lucky. His master raised him and had never mistreated him, and his family cared for him so much. Since yesterday, he felt that this might be the arrangement of God. If he did not go to the lower realm because of the accident, how could he have met Hong Zhuang? In comparison, he felt that the current situation was the best arrangement of God. "How could you not have suffered?" Yun Yishan sighed, and her eyes were full of love. "But it's good that you're back now. It was impossible for a child to live a lonely life without suffering." However, looking at Di Beichen's current appearance, she knew that Beichen had grown up well. "Grandfather, grandmother, you don't have to worry anymore. Now that Beichen is back, mother's heart will be cured." Di Xiaofeng comforted. Lin Wenlan nodded. She couldn't help but glance at Di Yujue frowning. "Beichen has already returned. Why didn't you tell us earlier? You made us worry." Listening to Lin Wenlan's words, Di Yujue was also depressed. He clearly wanted to say it several times, but she kept interrupting him. "Okay? Now you're blaming me for all of this." Even though he was speechless, Di Yujue could only endure the scolding. Who asked the other party to be his father-in-law? No matter what the other party said, he could only listen. Looking at their father's sullen appearance, Di Xiaofeng and Di Beichen couldn't help but look at each other. They wanted to help but couldn't. However, now that Beichen was back, everything was gradually getting better. When mother recovered, everything would be better. Di Linxian and Xia Wanrong immediately rushed over after hearing that Lin Wenlan and the others had come. Compared to the unhappiness when they met in the past, everyone's mood was undoubtedly much better this time. "Old man Lin, we finally found Beichen. Now we don't have to glare at each other as soon as we meet." Chapter 4609. In the beginning, the relationship between the two of them was quite good, but because of these things they contacted less. Now that Beichen was back, the knot in their hearts could be completely untied. When Lin Wenlan came, she wanted to seek justice, but at this moment, she was only thinking about Di Beichen, and the joy in her eyes could not be concealed at all. Compared to this, nothing else was important. "How is Yunqing now?" Lin Wenlan asked aloud. Yunqing's condition is gradually improving, and Beichen's wife is now taking care of her. However, Yunqing's body is relatively weak, and she is worried that Beichen's sudden appearance will surprise her too much to bear, so she hasn't seen Beichen yet. However, according to Hong Zhuang, These 2 days will be enough, Xiao Wanrong said with a smile. Beichen's wife? Yun Yishan's eyes lit up, and a strong excitement appeared on her face. Yes. Xiao Wanrong walked to Yun Yishan's side and said with a smile. Hong Zhuang is a rare beauty, and she is also a very powerful doctor. Beichen's cursed body was cured by Hong Zhuang. If it weren't for Hong Zhuang, we wouldn't be able to see Bewitching now. I didn't expect to have a granddaughter-in-law so soon. It's really a surprise. The joy on Yun Yishan's face became more and more intense. In the past few years, she and Xiao Wanrong had the same thoughts, and they both hoped that Di Xiaofeng could get married soon. After all, as long as Di Xiaofeng got married and gave birth to a great-grandson, this would add a little joy to the family, and maybe Yunqing's mood would be eased after seeing her grandson. However, Di Xiaofeng didn't seem to have this idea, and they were very helpless. They didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, Beichen was already married, so how could they not be happy? Yes, as long as you see Hong Zhuang, you will like her very much, Xiao Wanrong said. Let's go to Yunqing's residence first. You should also see your granddaughter-in-law. As they spoke, Xiao Wanrong and Yun Yishan walked forward together. There were always more topics to talk about between women. Wanrong, Beichen's constitution has already transformed into a heavenly mandate constitution, right? Yun Yishan and Xiao Wanrong looked at each other, and a complicated look flashed across their eyes. Xiao Wanrong nodded slightly with understanding in her eyes, but she did not say much on this topic. When Lin Wenlan and Di Lin Xian saw that Yun Yishan and Di Lin Xian had already set off, they followed behind them slowly. However, Lin Wenlan's attention was always on Di Beichen. He hadn't seen his grandson for so many years. Now he just wanted to take a closer look at him, as if he couldn't get enough of him. Ying recently Xiaofeng has always liked to stay outside. I haven't seen him many times. What do you think of him now? Have there been any rumors about him outside? Lin Yunqing's face rippled with a faint gentle smile, as she asked Bailey Hongzhuang indirectly. Now, she liked Bailey Hongzhuang more and more. She only felt that if Bailey Hongzhuang could be her daughter-in-law, it would be the best thing. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't realize this, and only thought that Lin Yunqing was curious about Di Xiaofeng's situation outside these years. However, she also didn't know much about Di Xiaofeng. Xiaofeng is naturally a very good person. He is very loyal and has many friends. I just came to the upper realm from the lower realm not long ago, so I'm not very clear about many things. Chapter 46:10. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the smile in Lin Yunqing's eyes gradually deepened. She was very confident in her son. Among the young talents of the younger generation, there would definitely be a place for Di Xiaofeng. Although old madam had mentioned many young ladies to her before, she wasn't sure what their characters were like. On the contrary, she was very satisfied with Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her. She was not picky at all. Although her body wasn't very good right now, her eyesight was still very good. With one look, she could tell that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't pretending. This girl's character and conduct were very good. The only thing was that she was from the lower realm. However, she did not have any family background, so she did not feel that it was a big problem. Just as they were talking, suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. Lin Yunqing turned to look outside. However, as she was half lying on the bed, she could not see the real situation in the courtyard. She was curious about who had come at this time. My courtyard seems to be very lively today. Lin Yunqing's lips curled into a faint smile. Usually, her place was always quiet, and almost no one came back. She did not expect many people to come over these 2 days. Bailey Hongzhuang was also puzzled as she looked outside, her heart filled with curiosity. Who would come at this time? Logically speaking, Beichen could not come to see mother now, so no one else should come. Just as the two of them were puzzled, the sound of footsteps came closer. Then, several figures appeared in front of them. Yunqing. Yun Yishan saw Lin Yunqing at first glance. She immediately walked over and stood by her bed. Bailey Hongzhuang did not know who had come, but when she saw that Di Lin Xian and Xiao Wanrong had come, she knew that the madam in front of her was not ordinary. She immediately took a few steps back and gave up her position. Looking at Lin Yunqing's pale face, Yin Yishan's eyes were filled with heartache. She asked with concern, Yunqing, we haven't seen each other for a while. How did you become so weak? Mother, I'm fine. Lin Yunqing looked at Yin Yishan in surprise. Why are you and father here today? Your condition is already so serious. How can your father and I not come? Yin Yishan sighed, and she could not help but feel heartache as she said, Look at you, you've become so thin. Don't just think about yourself. You have to think about me and your father. If you're gone, what will your father and I do? Her daughter had never suffered much since she was young. She suddenly regretted that she shouldn't have spoiled her too much in the past. If it wasn't for that, perhaps she wouldn't have become like this. Hearing this, Lin Yunqing felt a little guilty. Mother, it was my fault. Yin Yishan shook her head and sighed, but she still couldn't bring herself to reprimand her daughter. She held her hand and said, You have to look on the bright side. Maybe you'll be reunited with Bewitching one day. Reunite? Lin Yunqing was slightly stunned. The matter of Bewitching's death was already set in stone. There was no such possibility. However, in the past 2 days, both Bailey Hongzhuang and Yin Yishan had mentioned this matter to her. Could it be that there was still a chance? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.